All right, thank you, everyone. So we want to welcome you to this session, Power in Our Hands, African Innovations in Community Resource Mobilization. So this session is being moderated by Anne Kungu, who is working with Blood Water Organization based in Nairobi and the US. And also Effie Imbali, who is from Kabda, who is in Kenya. Hesbon Sapur from Neighbors Initiative Alliance in Kenya, and Geoffrey Kinalwa, who is from PACT in Uganda. Welcome you to this wonderful session, and we look forward to all your contributions and learnings. So as you know, Catalyst now is an...
I'm sorry, before we start, could you press slideshow?
Sorry. I think better?
Wait,
I think my network is having some issues, honestly. It's taking so long to load. Yeah, better?
There, it's loading, yeah.
Thank you, Mary. All right, so Mary will also be helping me in this session, sharing in the chat, and you'll get to meet her when we have time at the end of this session. Thank you. So, like I was saying, we have themes for the Catalyzing Change Week 2025. And today, most themes are about mental health and well-being and art for social change. So we want to officially welcome you to Catalyzing Change Week.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I'm Lubna Dajani, Chair of Catalyst Now USA Chapter and Managing Director of Ultimate. It is my honor to welcome you to the inaugural day of CCW2025, a day dedicated to mental health, well-being, and the undeniable role of art in social change. Around the world, mental health challenges affect nearly 1 billion people. That's right, about 13.6% of our global family. Anxiety impacts 284 million. Depression reaches 264.
Oh God, what happened? Oh my God, sorry guys.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I'm Lubna Dajani, Chair of Catalyst Now USA Chapter and Managing Director of Ultimate. It is my honor to welcome you to the inaugural day of CCW 2025, a day dedicated to mental health, well-being, and the undeniable role of art in social change. Around the world, mental health challenges affect nearly 1 billion people. That's right, about 13.6% of our global family. Anxiety impacts 284 million. Depression reaches 264 million. And more than 700,000 lives are lost to suicide each year. The economic cost, over $1 trillion. Still, only 9% of those diagnosed with depression receive treatment. These numbers only stand to remind us how deeply this impacts each and every one of us. But today isn't only about the challenges. Today is about how we can change the narrative. Across the globe, artists and social innovators together are building models of care that are accessible, inclusive, and are rooted in real lived experiences. Technology extends our reach and unlocks our hidden creativity. And art isn't just a reflection. It's an active force in healing and connection. Art turns stigma into understanding, and it opens safe spaces for sharing. It sparks compassion and mobilizes communities for social change. Today, you will see and hear how art and innovators are using culture and imagination through music, storytelling, and visual arts to challenge norms, change narratives, and spark new possibilities. By caring for each other and by competing to complete each other's work to a common goal, and by embracing empathy, imagination, and creativity, we can truly reimagine the systems that are shaping our world today. I welcome you, CCW 2025.
Awesome. So we have a few housekeeping rules. We request that you keep your video on if possible, and you can change your name to show your name and company, unmute when you speak, and if you have any issues, you can always reach me in the chat or raise your hand and you'll be assisted. Thank you. So enjoy the session. Like I said initially, we are being joined by Effie Imbali, who is the Executive Director of Community Asset Building and Development Action, Kabda, Kenya, and Hesbon Sapur from Neighbors Initiative Alliance in Kenya, Geoffrey Kinalwa, for Executive Director for Partners for Community Transformation, Uganda, and Ann Kungo from Bloodwater, who is our session moderator. For those of you who do not know about Catalyst Now, we are a dynamic global movement of social innovators working to transform systems and drive sustainable change to advance SDGs worldwide. We co-create spaces where the world's social innovators can come together to co-create, collaborate, and contribute to transformational change. So Mary will be sharing in the chat the application form that you can fill to know more about Catalyst Now. And you can also join us on Friday, where we'll be having a session on about all the information that you need to know about Catalyst Now. We look forward to seeing all of you who are not yet members of Catalyst. Join us on that session and learn more about Catalyst and join our greatest movement. Thank you so much. I now welcome Ann Kungu, who will be the moderator for the session, to welcome all the other speakers and to take over the session. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you, Leslie. Hello, everyone. My name is Ann Kongo. I'm the Director of Africa Partnerships at Bloodwater, and it's an honor to hold this space with you all today. Bloodwater brings deep partnerships and resources to African-led organizations on the front lines of health. And this is because we know that when they thrive, millions gain life-saving access to care. Our model is an 8-year journey of systems change in action, where we find and partner with local leaders on the fringes of funding. We also trust and support through flexible funding and organizational strengthening. And finally, we continue this impact through ecosystems investments. Now, through this process, funding flows change, resilience increases, power dynamics shift, and impact endures. Today, we are going to gather around a theme that speaks directly to Bloodwater, and one that our partners have proven every day over the last 20 years we have existed. And this is that communities are not only the experts of their own challenges, they are also the architects of their own solutions. For too long, when we have conversations around localization, it has primarily focused basically on where the implementer is based, and not so much where the power, the resources, and the decisions actually reside. But today, we have the privilege of having the opportunity to learn from 3 powerful organizations that we have the honor to partner with. And this is PACT from Uganda and CABDA and NIA from Kenya, who are honestly leading the hard work and also the necessary shift we need to see within the sector. They are not just implementing projects or programs in their communities, but instead they are building the infrastructure both in the community and their own institution that makes community development sustainable. So our goal today is to just go beyond theory, but instead learn from their practical work, their on-the-ground expertise and experience. So let's begin with a few introductions. So we have 3 speakers, and I will not take away this opportunity for them to better speak into their work and who they are. So I will start off by introducing NIA, CABDA, and PACT to take the podium and introduce themselves. We can start off with NIA, followed by CABDA and PACT. So Hesbon, over to you. Hesbon, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Thank you. So thank you so much, Anne, for having me here and to represent the organization and on behalf of NIA. As you can see on the screen, my name is Hesbon Sapur. I'm the program director for NIA. NIA is an indigenous public benefit organization founded way back in 1996. So next year, we'll be celebrating our 30th birthday. NIA is primarily dedicated to creating positive change within our community by addressing pressing social, environmental, and economic issues. NIA works with the ultra-poor, vulnerable, and marginalized communities in Kenya to advocate and champion implementation of pro-poor people policies and development that is people-centered, that enhances and builds continuously the resilience of our communities, amplifies the voice of our communities, and eventually improve on the well-being. That to achieve all that and to crown that, that contributes to the vision of NIA, which is a just, liberated, and progressive society. Thank you.
Thank you, Hesper. Effie?
My name is Effie Imbali. I am the founder and executive director of Community Asset Building and Development Action, in short, CABDA. CABDA was established in the year 2005 with a vision of a better life for children, youth, and women in communities. Currently, we are involved in 3 pillars. Pillar number 1 is health and well-being. In this particular pillar, what we are doing is to provide water, sanitation, and hygiene to school-going children, families, and villages in Western Kenya. We are also involved in supporting TB, that is care and prevention. We are also involved in supporting HIV/AIDS orphans and vulnerable children, together with their families, to provide the basic needs as a pillar number 1. And then there's what goes to pillar number 2 is wealth creation and well-being, where what we do, wealth creation and sustainability, and what we do in this particular pillar is to economically support communities, families, and villages to make sure that they create wealth for economic empowerment, for livestock, for livelihood, so that they can be able to sustain, the other pillars within the organization. Then the third pillar that we are involved in is institutional strengthening and sustainability. This is where we are empowering, we are making sure that we are strengthening our systems, our procedures, our structures, to make sure that we remain relevant as a local organization. But not just that, making sure that we are also strengthening the systems and structures of the local communities to be able to continue even sustaining the projects that we've given to them. That is what we are doing as an organization. I want to say thank you for having us.
Geoffrey?
Thank you so much, Anne, and everyone joining. Geoffrey Chinaro is my name, and I'm the Executive Director at PACT, Partners for Community Transformation, a non-profit organization founded in Uganda and established 30 years ago in 1995. So we've just celebrated our 30th anniversary recently in June, and the PACT operates across 7 districts currently, and we a non-profit organization that was established to address the structural inequalities that are affecting adolescent girls and young women within the country, based between the age of 10 to 24. And we look at adolescent girls and young women from ultra-poor households to support them and improve them through our 3-pillar model, program model, which looks at economic activation and inclusion, where we look at empowering them with the basic skills in terms of financial literacy, but also other skills that help them acquire a living and be able to support themselves, and also reduce the dependence rate on other services. We also, our pillar number 2 looks at social protection. Under social protection, we look at the main social services such as access to clean and safe water, education services, which go beyond the households, but also the entire educational institution, and also prevention of GBV, gender-based violence, and GBV, and then also health issues surrounding the youth, trying to help them to remain health-wise, okay. And last pillar looks at personal development and leadership. So that is what we look at PACT, and we are still focused to continuing initiating and accelerating transformation within the communities we serve. Good to join you today. Thank you.
Thank you all for those lovely introductions, and we're just going to jump right into our session. And the first couple of questions, we're going to be dwelling more on the why of community capital, which is a lot of what you do. So the session description that was shared talked a lot about a profound shift from donor dependency to, of course, communities driving development. From your perspective, Hesbon, what does community-led development truly mean to you? Oh, Hesbon, you muted.
Sorry, Anne. Thank you so much, Anne. And I love the fact that the question ends with the word truly. What does community-led development truly means? So in the context of NEA, what does community-led development truly means? It basically means a citizen-centered approach to development, where the citizen play a leading role in implementing development interventions. The citizens being the right holder, so they hold the right to lead the process of implementation. And the system, in this regard, the governance system, who are the duty bearer, performs the role of facilitation. That means that in the context of NEA, that citizen-led approach has to give space for the communities to galvanize themselves, to mobilize themselves, to look at the existing assets and resources that they have. This could be individual skills, social assets, and locally available resources. That then leads to a process where then communities undertake a process where they identify their development gaps. So they lead the process of identification of their development gaps. And by the way, the Kenyan Constitution has tried to cure that by introducing the aspect of public participation. Then after communities have led the way in identifying their gaps, then they develop action plans. They lead in the process of implementation of those action plans. That means that communities get the opportunity to create a collaborative partnership internally amongst themselves, intra-community, and externally amongst the stakeholders and the key players that exist within that community structure. Then once that is done cumulatively, then a truly community-led development has to nurture and grow community strength, and number two, local and indigenous knowledge. So in the context of NEA, that's how we define a community-led process. What does it truly entail? Thank you.
Thank you, Hesbon. Now, Geoffrey, you have, as you shared earlier, been in existence for 30 years. And you mentioned how through the couple of years you worked a lot also with Bloodwater, is community capital is part of the infrastructure you use in development. How does that look like in your work? What does it mean in your context, in your work as well?
Thank you, Anne. To our work, community capital is something that is very vital to practice interventions. And we see that this basically relates to the people and the relationship that we usually have as we do our work. And for us, that is the true definition of sustainable development, because we do believe that when the communities that we work with and we serve, they do have the best understanding of their communities. They do have the best understanding of the local capital and the local resources that are available. When you talk about these local capital and the local resources, they go beyond to the human capital. We also look at the social capital around them, the institutions, and what can we leverage on the other existing institutions. Most importantly, the cultures. I would believe where we have worked, the culture has formed a very big part of the capital of our interventions, because you need to understand and blend into the cultures of a given community. Each community have different dynamics. So not until we do understand those and we blend them with them, then it makes our approaches, interventions, and all those much easier to get into. So for us, when we talk about the community capital, it means the different resources we have, but leveraging on the ability, availability, and the skills. By the way, those are very important. We look at the skills and also the trust, because we really need to trust the community we work with. So the trust, the skills, but also the networks with them. And then we try to make sure that we have shared values within the community that we serve, to make sure that we leverage on all that and be able to deliver on our mandate. And this, in many instances, makes our interventions and work very easier and much cheaper, because people contribute willingly using their social capital or the community capital as we talk. So basically, for us, it refers to working together with the community and leveraging on the resources that are within where we serve.
Thank you, Geoffrey. Effie, why did you intentionally focus on local resource mobilization?
Thank you, Anne. One thing I want to say is, when I was growing up as a young child in a very poor community and in a poor family, my desire was to get involved in development all through, because I didn't want young people like me and the families to go through what I had gone through. So my first work after being trained as a community development worker took me to two different international organizations. So I worked there, and they were providing water facilities, wash facilities. They were providing other projects. But one thing that happened as I worked for these two different organizations at two different periods, when the projects were handed over to the community, there was a problem. There was a problem when it came to operation and maintenance and lack of sustainability. So I thought that there was a gap that literally I needed to address, because I was feeling that these international organizations were giving 100% of the required materials to the community. So the community were not getting involved either even in planning or designing the project or even implementing the project. So they took it for granted, because if they were not involved, even including contribution, they didn't care so much about it. So I found that so many projects that we had implemented with these particular international organizations, those projects went down. There was they were no longer in operation. So I thought there was a gap, and for me as an individual, I thought that let me start something, a total, a community-led managed organization that really understands that these people literally, they know their problems, they know their challenges, they already are doing something about it in a small way. What they're only doing is to see if they can get outside resources, which they would then look from other organizations. So I thought that if I can begin CABDA, this led to me beginning CABDA, knowing that because we really understand the community, yeah, we want to involve them with what they have, what they have first. So this made us, this made me to begin this organization, and it really helped me because the community themselves were beginning with their own resources first before anything else comes in. So for me, as the name is pronounced, as by the name of the organization, it is actually community asset, because the community has its own assets first, and then after having those assets, they're able to do something before another person comes in. So for us as CABDA, this is who we are. Community contributing their own resources is across all our projects, because it is done knowing that we are the people that are driving, our own development. Thank you.
Thank you all. Now, we also saw that philanthropy is not new to Africa, but reclaiming this cultural legacy, basically, of philanthropy is a very powerful and also very fascinating approach that you all have taken. And just factoring in also just the difference in contexts of the different communities you all work with. So I have a two-part question, and here we would just really want to hear about the how. And hopefully someone who is listening in can be inspired and take that next step as bravely as you all three have. And also probably share what their approach has been as well. So probably what are the strategies or approaches that your organization has used to mobilize resources from your community? And also you might have shared this, but if you haven't, what motivated you to do so? And the second part of it is basically when you are when did you start specifically mobilizing these resources? And if you could give us some numbers to work with. Let's see how much you raise annually. This could be either a number, a percentage would be great. So that out of your overall institutional funding that you receive, what percentage of it is raised by these communities? And how are we stewarding this? Is it to the point where we have our contributions as an integral part of our audits? And I will invite Geoffrey, you can start us off on what that looks like. Geoffrey, you're muted.
Thank you, Anne. And I do appreciate the importance indeed of the community contributions. For us, it's at PACT, it's a cut across intervention or approach towards all our programs. And we do encourage the contributions through many different areas. And one of them looks at the membership, contributions from our beneficiaries and our partners. These are things that people do subscribe willingly. Our organization is a membership organization, so they do subscribe and then they contribute. So towards the different programs, but also that is done annually. But also that forms a small percentage, and what forms the biggest percentage of these contributions is from the programs that we do implement, and these are the projects. And this cuts across all the projects, starting with the water projects, which is our biggest area of intervention, but also goes through to education and the other, such as the economic activation and inclusion. And before I go into the nature of contribution, we do believe that, like where we started from, that these communities we work with have the resources within them. And when we talk about the resources, we try to emphasize the realities that a resource is not only about money. It's not about cash. We look at a resource of the knowledge. Many of these people have the knowledge. And if we are to look at only money, you will realize that in terms of getting us the knowledge and the skills, we are saving much, much more than what we would have spent actually. Let me say maybe paying a consultant, maybe, bring experts to come, for example, and dig a well. We have people who have dug wells in this community for over years. I know they've never gone to school. They are not, skilled in terms of class, but they have the local skills that they need. You may know, like in Africa, many people do dig latrines, for example, as far as 100 feet deep. So, more than 100 meters deep. So these have the skills and the knowledge and they understand their. Yes. But to be specific on the type of contributions that we do encourage, many of them, over 90% of their contributions in our programs are in-kind contributions. And these are mainly the locally available materials. And the reason why we do this on our side as PACT, we designed it intentionally that we know most of the communities we serve are hard to reach communities. And with these hard-to-reach communities also have their own challenges in terms of resources, in terms of cash, in terms of money. So that is why we do encourage in-kind, but in-kind also the locally available materials. So if we're talking about wells, if we are talking about classroom blocks and what we are looking at, like the bricks, we are looking at the sand, the aggregate stones, the poles, the timber, whatever we need to have these projects done, on top of the unskilled labor, which they also offer and all that. So what we do is that, we have a form which we use that before we do commence any project at the planning phase and the development of the project, we engage with the local community and do agree on their contributions, how much they're going to contribute in terms of these items. And then they're able to fill this form, which is a local contribution commitment form. So they fill this form, it is signed, and then we sit and review it and agree on what we are going to do. So they would bring in these resources. Once the project is going to commence, they mobilize the resources amongst themselves, and then we come and then they take lead in implementing all these projects. And for us, by them taking lead is one way of also contributing to the project. So they take lead and then we agree and then we do implementation of it. But on this form, or whatever they've committed to fund is transmitted into financial terms by our finance department. And then we are able to know that village A, school A is contributing these materials worth this amount of money. So on average, we would be looking at annually our beneficiaries contribute towards our projects close to about $40,000 across all programs, and that forms a good percentage of about 10% of our close to 10%. It's about 9 point something, close 10% of our annual budget as an organization. Thank you.
All right, Effie, how do you do it?
Thank you, Anne. For us as an organization, we have 4 different ways on how we do community resource mobilization. The first one is where in infrastructure, that is either wash or construction of houses, either for widows or child-headed household. This is a situation where it's a cost share, where we have we know that this particular project will be the total cost is this amount of money. So as an organization, we'll be contributing this amount of money, and you as the community, you'll be contributing this amount of money. So for the community, mainly they do in-kind giving, providing local available materials. They provide also unskilled labor. This includes sand, ballasts, unskilled labor, and accommodation even for the skilled fundis that will be going to the unskilled artisans that will be going to construct those facilities, and then also providing food, which we cost as part of what the community has contributed. Then the second kind of giving that we do, a strategy that we have, is the paid services, where we are handling wash as an income, where all the households that we are providing piped water to, they have to pay registration fee. And after paying the registration fee, when they're connected with the water, they pay a monthly, okay, they pay bills towards water as they use that water. So that particular paid services, it is where you find that the community put it aside for operation and maintenance for the sake of sustainability in future. And then for also community contribution and also the paid services, another thing that we do is to empower water consumer committees, water consumer groups, and all other structures that have been established or within the community to make sure that they're involved in lending and saving and lending, establishing businesses. And these businesses, the profit literally is used either to pay cash when it's needed for as a cost share, or it is actually used to pay water bills. So that nobody's saying that this particular household is actually poor. They already have money because of the kind of businesses they're involved in. Then the third strategy that we are involved in, we do as an organization, is having community-driven advocacy, where we are empowering the water and sanitation management committees, all caregivers groups, to register themselves as local organizations. And then after registering themselves as local organizations, we empower them on how to lobby for finances, either from the local government or from other organizations. In this situation, you'll find that whenever the community identifies a project that they need to work with the CABDA, what they will do, it is actually they go to other organizations by themselves because we've trained them on how to do it. They go to the county government and they tell them that we want to do this such a project. Either we want to support a child, some children in this village that don't have school fees. CABDA will be paying this amount of money, and we want you as a government to help us pay this amount of money. Or CABDA wants to give us a sanitation facility, they'll be contributing this, and we are requesting the county government to contribute this. Or they say that CABDA is giving us a water source, it will amount to this amount of money, and what we are requesting the government is to provide for us this money. So because of them lobbying to the government and advocating for this amount of money, literally the government has to give. In fact, we've had cases where, because of us building the capacities, they have been able to lobby the county governments that in the counties that we are working in to make sure that money is allocated, even for HIV/AIDS in the county budget. Money is allocated for malaria, TB, and other projects with the lobbying from literally from the community themselves. Then the last one that we have our networks as an organization. We have our suppliers. We are giving them businesses. So literally, we approach them, at one point, maybe with a list of orphans and vulnerable children who are HIV positive, or even with a need from a particular school. And we are telling them that we've been giving you businesses. Now it's a high time for you to give back, social responsibility. And we have also been able to see, even our suppliers giving to us our own projects within the organization. Now, I want to really thank Bloodwater because this is something that we not talk about so much. But when they came in and they began working with us, they helped us to begin even documenting this support that we are having from the community, because we didn't take it like something for us. So when we began documenting it, we have been able to to know, okay, apart from the fact that we are being audited, because this is put in our external audit as part of money that we received within the organization. Then apart from that, you will find that you'll find that this has increased even the community giving. Like going back to the last 3 years, in the year 2023, the community was able to give 11% of the annual budget of CABDA, which was audited. 2024, it increased. It went to 15% from the community, which was also audited. Then we are in the year 2025. We have done 6 months because our annual year begins on 1st of April. And already for the few months in the year 2025, we've been able to raise 7% of the total budget of the organization. We believe by the end of March 2026, when we are ending this annual financial year, we will have gone up to 20%. So this is what we are doing as an organization.
Wonderful. Hesbon.
And what motivates us, maybe answering what motivates us,
Right.
the question on what is motivating us. What motivates us is the fact that the community knows this is a local organization. We know that Africa, the African culture is to give. Literally, people in the community, they give to us funerals, they give to us weddings, they give to us school fees, they give to us sicknesses. So for us, we are motivated even for them to give, knowing that this is their own organization, and the fact that they know our vision, they know our mission, they know that we are actually within the community, we are transparent, we are accountable. They give us freely, and this motivates us even to give even more. And the last thing that motivates us even to give more is the fact that as spring that CABDA protected, a natural spring in the village that CABDA protected in the last over 18 years, up to right now, it is still operational, being maintained with the community themselves after us leaving that place. So that motivates us even to continue asking more money from the community because we know they are willing to give. Thank you.
Thank you, Effie. Hesbon, tell us about your side.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the strategy that NIA has towards mobilizing resources locally is edged on the age-old philosophy that our communities are half full but not half empty. Communities have inherent capacities. They have inherent resources that they can give towards any intervention. So for NIA, we have a three-pronged approach to this. So number one is NIA has an elaborate and robust community engagement strategy that defines how we enter the community through an intervention and how we exit after that intervention. This community engagement strategy helps communities look at things in three ways. Number one is we build relationships with our communities. Number two is we assess the available resources within a community, and the communities are able to visualize these resources. Number three is this approach gives communities the space to organize themselves and organize a response towards an intervention. That means they are able to make decisions on their own, they are able to develop their own plan, and they are able to support with implementation of that plan. The second prong that NIA employs is we go a step further and share our activity budgets with the communities. So communities get to know how much money have we budgeted for this intervention. And then when we come up with a portion of a community contribution, they already envision what NIA is supposed to do. And then hence for them to mobilize the resources from their end becomes actually a motivation for the community. The third prong for us to this is the motivation aspect. So number one, to the motivation aspect, it is embedded in our documents. So it's part of our policy that for us to implement an intervention, they have to be a component of community contribution. Communities have to mobilize resources locally. The only time that we don't do that is when we are having emergency responses. For emergency responses, there is a waiver. But when we are implementing other interventions, we have a component of community contribution. Why do we do that? Number one is to inculcate the culture of ownership and sustainability, to make sure that communities own this investment. Communities see their percentage of this investment. If we are putting up a water source, for example, like a borehole, probably the communities buy the solar system. So every time that water system is there, the communities also see their resources. So they are challenged to always make sure that it is there, it is running, and it is sustainable. The other one is to try and change the wrong attitudes that are there in the community, to make communities feel as partners in development, but not recipients. So by communities contributing to a certain intervention, we take them through an attitude change process that is supposed to address the wrong attitudes that are there in the community, that is supposed to address the dependency syndrome, that is supposed to undo the damage that as civil society organization, government agencies, we have done to our communities. Because many a times we have made communities feel helpless, they are poor, they are unable to afford anything. So when you go there, they always expect you to provide everything. So we try to address those wrong attitudes and making sure that communities value their space in development. Then the other one is to bring up the culture of transformation, the change that we want to see. How do we sustain that change? It's also by communities making sure that they have a component of their resources within a particular intervention. And that is the only way that it gives a buy-in, it gives acceptance, and it gives sustainability to that investment. The whole aspect of resource mobilization, and especially from the community, is as old as NIA. So all through, it's been part and parcel of NIA. But just looking through our records since 2001, a substantial amount of our resources has been coming from the community. On an annual basis, we've had about 11,000 USD annually on average as part of the community contribution. That amount, because it reflects in our book, is part of our audit process. But the contribution in kind is not part of the audit because it's unable to quantify that. But the one that we capture and it's part of the investment in cash forms part of our audited accounts. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you. I really love that part when you mentioned that we are undoing the damage. We also, as a civil society, have basically created that
Thank you.
content.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne.
I've loved hearing from you all the intentionality behind this, in that we are stewarding the community resources with the same rigor, transparency, and legitimacy as we do external donor funds. That's really great. Now, Geoffrey, PACT has worked extensively with the rural communities in Uganda. And of course, we know that these communities, as you mentioned earlier, have a lot of competing priorities. So I'm certain the local resource mobilization process has not been easy. So what are some of the resistance or challenges that you have faced, and how have you overcome that? And this is for anyone who wants to start off the process or is in the initial stages and they're experiencing this resistance. What is the resistance? How can we overcome it?
Oh, thank you, Anne. Indeed, you are spot on. There are quite diverse, challenges and a number of resistance issues and factors that hinder our progress and our approaches to local resource mobilization. And just to mention a few, one of them is led by the limited disposable income that the communities we serve have. And this is in line also versus the other competing priorities like you have mentioned. Many of these communities do struggle with school fees, also feeding needs, also there are issues to do with healthcare. So you realize that there are a lot of these competing priorities, but at the same time you are coming to tell them to do contribution towards a given project, despite the fact that they have very limited disposable income. So for us, that the communities we work in mainly relatively poor, and they may not have a lot to do contribute towards the project. So that's one of the challenges that we face. The other challenge, like my colleague has just mentioned, there's a lot of donor dependence, like the damage has been made maybe by many of the civil society organizations where we came from, like just going to the communities and just giving out whatever you give, and then you disappear. You don't engage these people in doing what you're setting up and planning for the projects and all that. So by the time other implementers do come in, they find that there's already a damaged mindset, just like what my colleague has said. And so this, by you coming with the idea of local contribution and all this, you are dealing with a dependent or a mindset that is grounded on give me and I go, give me and I take. So that's one of the challenges we are fighting and struggling with to work with these communities and try to undo that damage, like my friend called it already, to these communities. The other is something to do with I think I call it trust and belief. When we go to serve in these communities, there are quite a number of service providers and stakeholders and implementers in these areas. And those who have gone before you, if they've not utilized their relationship with the community well, if they raised some money, if they got some contribution towards given other projects, could be a civil society organization, could be a private sector actor, could be government program, anything, and then maybe that resource was misused. So as you go back to engage the communities to contribute, there is that mistrust already, which they developed and they believe. So you have to first address that with the community before they would come in. So that's another quite a bit of a challenge that we are facing in addressing this. But also the other that we shouldn't forget is this big animal of the political influence. There are communities where we have been and we are doing well, for instance, and the communities are contributing money, and we do encourage them also to have their fund, or the WASH fund, where they contribute towards every month. They establish their accounts, and they have a WASH fund, and they can put money into this fund so that they can repair their wells, they can repair their boreholes. Some of them have gone ahead to utilize the money because we do wells and they last longer without getting damaged. So which means they save quite a lot of money. And with time, they turn this into saving groups and they're able to use this for their development purposes. But there are communities where you have been, and the political leaders are discouraging. Why are they charging money from you? They get money from the donors and all that. So you would expect that, but because they have their self-interests, they want to speak what the community wants to hear. So although they know the truth, but they know that does not serve me to the community. So I must say what the community wants. And then after they can come to you and shamefully, they would tell you, I'm sorry, but I needed these people, I needed them to listen to me. So that has been another challenge that we have faced in our work. And also, maybe lastly around that area is the issue also where we have many of the people associating development aid or external aid with just getting and going away. They don't have this, so they are like, why should we contribute towards something that even you, the donors, just give you the money? You came and told us you have money, you have this budget, from Bloodwater, you are coming to work with us and all that, and then you are coming back and telling us to contribute towards this. Why? You already got the money from the donor. So those are some of the challenges that we have faced over time, but we have been able to counter, react and respond to these challenges. And that is why, because we've been able to work with the communities and do this, that's why we are still able to be here and report about the successes that we are having from community contributions. And one of the ways we've been able to go against these challenges is building community ownership of these projects, even before they start. And then we also, our model looks at a demand-driven kind of approach. We do not want to come to the communities and we tell them we have this package to give to you. We want the communities, we are working with the communities to identify the gaps and the challenges they have in the communities. Once they have identified them, we have community structures we have worked. We have established community-based volunteers, resource-based persons that we work with, and these are the people that they work with to identify the challenges and the gaps where we are. So they come to us through those kind of channels, and we do believe on our side that once the need is driven by the community to us, then it's more acceptable. Then we are able to go to them and we are like, wow, we are responding to this, we've seen this. So we are willing to work with you and address this. What are you putting on the table? What is your contribution? Than us going and tell them, we want to do well for you. How much are you going to contribute? No, so it is the other way around. And for us, that has really worked so much, and we have been able to win them off because there's that strong ownership of the project and they know it belongs to them. But also the other thing is involving the members within the community to take lead in mobilizing the local resources. We do not mobilize the local resources as PACT. We work through our community-based resource persons to speak to the local leaders, to speak to the community, and then they put together these resources. So when we do so, there's a lot of trust in many instances that is given to their fellow community members. So those are some of the ways, but of course also sharing the success stories of these projects and from other areas, and the trust would build within, and the transparency by accounting for that money. We usually have our annual general meetings, and we invite community leaders to be representatives, to be part of our annual general meetings. We account back to the public, and we are able to win trust and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Geoffrey. Thank you for that. Truly, at the end of it all, the one consistent theme we have definitely is community has to be involved. And there's always more than one way to involve them. And we are clearly at some point not leveraging the resources that they have fully. Effie, for CAPDA. Sustainability is definitely an issue, especially with the extent of work you have around WASH. This is water, sanitation, and hygiene, and you have quite a lot of infrastructure you've been setting up over the last 20 years. So how has community resource mobilization helped you break the cycle of building? We have breakdowns, the project closed down, so we abandon, and then we start all over again. So how are you working towards breaking that cycle?
Okay, one thing as CAPDA we've done is to make sure that right from the beginning, we involve the community in a proposal, okay, the baseline survey up to proposal writing. And then after that, when we've developed the proposal together, what we normally do is to make sure that we then establish very strong structures within the community. The water and sanitation management committees, the caregivers, the support groups, structures that are in line with that particular project that we are implementing. So we then train them on their roles and responsibilities to make sure that they really understand about the project, what they need to do, what is their role, and of course, after that, when money comes in, we are supposed to, we continually implement the project together, right from the beginning up to the end, and until we hand over the project official to them. But when we are handing over the project with the official to them, the structures that we build within the community and the systems, we've already, having already been capacity built to know their roles and responsibilities. Another thing we make sure we do is to make sure that we do at least savings and loaning within all the committees, at least the water consumers, the management committees, all the committees, all the groups. We do make sure that we establish saving and loaning. So they make sure that they establish businesses, and the profit that they bring out from those businesses, they are able to help in sustaining those facilities. Like they will make sure that they have established a kitty for every spring, for every school, every tank, you know, every household or every village. They make sure that they have a kitty where every water consumer deposits their money in that account, because they have a separate account. Whenever there is actually a need for repair, because our skilled laborers were able to train local skilled laborers, they already know how to do repairs. So they do repairing by themselves. They're actually given money from the local kitty. So it is literally making sure they have their own money. The bills, the money that is paid back as bills, part of it is kept aside for repairs and maintenance. That is why many of our water facilities are over 18 years and are still operating, because they have very strong structures that are economically empowered and providing towards operation and maintenance, leading to sustainability.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Effie. It's a lot you are doing in changing that and just redefining, and we're enjoying the consistency across all three of you in how you're approaching and engaging the community. Now, Hesbon, you work in a community that's very different from where Effie and Geoffrey work. And for most of Kenya, including where you work, over the last 3 years, Kenya has been hard hit with very extreme weather climate change, and mainly drought from 2021. And of course, this really, in your context, it has been reflected in a long rain season failure. We've seen also a lot of livestock deaths. And of course, the lack of water and forage. And of course, near total crop failure in your agro-pastoral zones. So how has community participation shifted the trajectory of your projects and all your other work within these communities while still navigating such circumstances?
Thank you. I must say that the shift has been profound, loud and clear. Allow me to take you through it in 4 different dimensions. So the first one is the greatest shift that we can observe and we can account for is the mindset shift. Our communities are becoming the captain of their own destiny. They are becoming the drivers of change. They are becoming proactive in participating in every stage of development. They are no longer sitting down, lamenting, complaining, and crying. They have taken charge of their destiny. They have accepted that these changes are inevitable. What is required of us is to plan, is to make sure that we protect our environment, is to make sure that we take the lead in coming up with adaptation mechanism. So that's the first shift, the shift in mindset. The second shift is our communities are proactively engaging in locally led adaptation initiatives. This has given room to a very critical trajectory where women are emerging as the champions and managers of our natural resources. Women are taking a leading role in developing proposals, submitting these proposals to stakeholders, following through for funding, including NIA, following through these proposals for funding and implementing these locally led adaptations. So why is that a great shift? It's a great one because women are taking up the leadership role of domains that were hitherto in my community are preserved for men. Water sources, management of water sources. The county government had an informal study which has showed that all the water sources that are sustainable, that are up and running with less cases of conflict and with high accountability are led by women. So women are taking up a critical role in shaping that trajectory. The third shift is the space, the civic engagement space is expanding because communities are taking a leading role, actively engaging the governance structures, the county governments, the national government, the non-state actors like us, the public benefit organization, making sure that they take a leading role when county planning processes are happening. They are submitting memorandums, they are submitting community priorities, and they are following through to make sure that they are funded. So there is a lot of amplifying of the voice of the community through women. That has also given room to the fourth shift, which is for NIA, that has forced us to audit some of our processes. And one of it is the community engagement strategy that NIA has. Because when these shifts happen and when the extreme weather conditions, the always issue of climate change, when it happens, it is not business as usual for our community. So NIA has to audit some of its processes, our community engagement strategy, to make sure that it aligns with the community seasons, and it also aligns with the historical events that are happening within the community. So communities have taken a leading role in shaping this trajectory, making sure that as all these things happen, they cannot sit down and complain. They have taken a leading and active role to make sure that that is achieved. Thank you.
Thank you, Osborne. Thank you. And I loved what you closed with at the tail end, that it is no longer business as usual. And of course, this has never been truer in our sector like it is now, and how much we have seen a lot of shrinking within the funding space. So how do you see your organization's position to thrive in this new funding landscape where so much donor shifts are happening? And of course, keeping in mind that the three of you have really stepped forward to bravely take on community resource mobilization. And we've seen anywhere from 7% where Effie is currently year to date in terms of community resources, Geoffrey sharing on 11%, and Hesbon, you mentioned the 11,000 average annual income that is contributed by the community. And of course, this will be more considering that you only mentioned the financial contributions and none of the in-kind has yet been basically itemized into a value. So how are we positioned to thrive in this new funding landscape? And I will invite to start us off with Effie. how you
as an sorry.
Continue.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Anne. As an organization, what we are doing at the moment is to get involved more in social enterprise. And I want to appreciate Bloodwater once more, that right now they're helping us to grow our social enterprise by helping us to establish livestock keeping that involves pig keeping and keeping pig keeping and dairy keeping. And then also they're supporting us to invest into growing local vegetables, which are on demand where we are operating, so that we can be able to increase, our income within the organization. But it's not just that what they're doing, they're also helping us to organize an event for fundraising to celebrate the 21 years of CABDA as a fundraising event. They're also helping us to organize a fundraising walk. At the same time, also helping us to organize a breakfast fundraising. So that is what we are doing when it comes to social, getting more involved in social enterprise. And then another thing that we are doing as an organization is to make sure that we review our systems, we review our processes, because times have changed. We can't live in the past. We want to make sure that we are making those changes in relation to what is happening and making sure that we position ourselves as a very strong organization in terms of making sure that we get we get more income that we are growing by ourselves. But not just that, because we want also to make sure that the communities which are already giving to us CABDA, we are also helping them to review their systems, to develop their systems, to review and develop their processes, so that the communities are very, very strong. They have very strong structures, so that when they have very strong structures like that, literally they are able to give even more and more to CABDA when it comes to implementing of their own projects. So another thing is just making sure that at least we are positioning ourselves to be a very strong organization in terms of leading the communities into really being in front line when it comes to their own development. That's what we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Effie. And we are 15 minutes to our time. So Hesbon, how is your organization now positioned? Keeping in mind with time.
Thank you. I think for us, the timing is good because I think in a year or so, probably 2 years, the government implemented the Public Benefits Organization Act, which now gives a new legal regime for public benefits organization to engage in income generating activities. So at least now the law gives us a leeway to try and work around that. But having said that, one is I think for NIA, we are relooking at our internal capabilities, our internal capacities. There are a number of approaches that NIA has championed, has implemented across the country. One is what we call an IMT, an integrity management toolbox that looks at water governance. The other one is a social transformation approach called community conversation. And the other one is a social audit approach called social accountability. So NIA is now looking at developing a unit within the organization that now purely uses these approaches as an innovative income generating approach in terms of consultancy. That's one. Number two is we want to enhance more strategic partnership, explore bigger strategic partnership, and look at the non-traditional avenues for getting resources. The government nowadays also works and funds organizations like the GEF Fund on Environment, for example. It is managed by the government through the Ministry of Environment. That's one of the avenue that some of the things that we are thinking as an organization to explore. But also we are looking at the possibility of having joint fundraising initiatives with consortiums and networks that NIA is a member. And also we are looking at an aspect of shared programming to amplify the impact of the work that we are doing. By doing so, we create a partnership where the impact of what we have already done can be uptaked and domesticated elsewhere, and in the process can also allow NIA to leverage and access resources because we already can demonstrate the impact of our intervention. But also we are looking at the aspect of sharpening the arrowhead, building the capacity of our staff, of our team, sharpening their skills in terms of grants development, grants writing, donor relations, strategic marketing, and non-chartered resource areas. Issues of public-private partnership. It's also something critical that NIA, having had a strong trust and relationship with the community, NIA can also be coming in to safeguard and to be the voice of the community when these public-private partnerships are being developed. They have been causing, by the way, a lot of problems within the communities. In the parts of northern Kenya, there is a serious problem with the carbon project because communities are coming up every day complaining that, raising issues that their voice is not being catered for. No one is on the table to amplify their voice. So as NIA, some of the public-private investments that are coming in, we are strategically positioning ourselves to make sure that we also take that niche. But to crown it, there is still a lot of space that has not been explored a lot. That probably requires lesser resources, but with a bigger impact. And this is the whole aspect of advocacy and public engagement, and especially on issues of system strengthening from the supply side and from the demand side, strengthening the voice of the community to demand for service and strengthening the voice of the service provider, the system that is supposed to provide the service, to engage the communities cordially and to sometimes open up when resources are not available, because resource availability is a challenge everywhere, even to our government. Sometimes to engage the community structurally, even in instances where resources are not available, for a workable and a more realistic solution to be found. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Hezbon. Geoffrey, quickly. We are to 10 minutes to time. So how are you positioned to thrive?
Yes, thank you, Anne. It's an interesting one, and we are into a situation where every CSO now is, trying to work around their systems and everything to make sure that we strive, because like you said at the start, the funding environment is really not as it used to be, and there's a lot of competing interests and all that. But we are privileged at PACT to start with is that, of course, I also want to begin by applauding Bloodwater for the intentional programs and approach geared towards strengthening their partners. That's really very encouraging and very sustaining for the partners that you work with. And I'm speaking that in relation to our recently launched resource mobilization strategy. We've just developed our new resource mobilization strategy. which looks at many of these challenges like as if we foresaw them coming. So we moved ahead, and our resource mobilization strategy looks at different. We have different pillars that we are using to ensure that we continue serving the people that we are serving, who need our services, and be able to thrive as an organization. So one of them is what, of course, my colleagues have already alluded to. What differs is the different approaches we are taking, but we are also taking a lot of much efforts in social enterprises. And here, for us, our focus is to look at social enterprise engagements that align well with our program implementation. For example, like I talked about our three pillars: socioeconomic activation and inclusion. Then we also talk about the social protection. The economic activation and inclusion, then the social protection, where we have access to water, education, and health. So we are looking at social enterprises which are in line with those program areas that we are giving to the communities. And the reason we are doing so is that we want to do these social enterprises that bring money to PACT for sustainability purposes, but at the same time, not diverting away from our program mandate that we are focusing on. So as we do this, take example, we are working into schools. How do we ensure that we address the problem of access to quality education in the far or difficult to reach areas? So we address that by maybe having access to education, but then also trying to bring resources into the organization. And that takes us back to where we've come from on the issue of community contribution. So we are now looking at our community contribution is more structured, well-structured, is more intentional, is more programmed, and there's a lot of working together in programming this. So we are just going to build further, and we're building further the community contribution, but this time around in a way that we are looking at social enterprise. And we have already started establishing structures where we are going to be working with the communities, having some assets that they can use and work on to give them skills, generate income for them, sustain PACT, while PACT gets some income as well. And the other is about to do with which Hezbon also commented about, is to do with the joint program implementation. We realize that we have scattered resources with either within the government, within the partners we work with. So one way we believe that we can reduce on the cost of the implementation, but be able to reach a wider community, is by partnerships. So our resource mobilization strategy is so intentional on partnerships we are going to forge and what type of partnerships we are going to be looking at. And this will cut across private sector. We've seen like for example, national water companies, that they are companies that drill, these are private companies, drill boreholes and all that. How do we work with them in terms of maybe local resource contribution, in terms of them giving back to the community, but as well as delivering on our objectives as an organization. So we are going to work so much on partnerships, and also we are going to look so much on issues to do with the donors. We've been looking at so much of donors. We have a project, we want to do this, can you apply for that? And then they give you credit. So we are looking at donors that are so much focused also on institutional growth and sustainability, where donors that are willing to work within a long-term program than focusing on a very small, maybe 6 month, 1 year project. So that is also, we are also looking at focusing so much on cultivating on those kind of strategic partnerships within the next period of time, among others. But in brief, in interest of time, that's what I can share. Thank you.
Thank you, Geoffrey. Now, we so far have received only one question, and I wanted to invite Geoffrey to respond to it as we are closing, as we end with our individual closing remarks across the panel. And the question that was shared, let me grab it. All right, it's from your perspective, what is the most pressing change that is needed in the social impact space or within our sector to empower local solutions? So give us a response before you step down, and then also your closing remarks. And we are working with 1 minute. We have 4 minutes.
Thank you, Anne. We'll look at the change that we are looking at is the mindset change. For the people that you work with, starting from the national, regional, and to the community level, they must also be supported to understand there is change in the international and the national funding trends. So there is now more time to work together more than ever. There's more time to accept ownership of whatever we are doing, and that is the only way that we can be positioned to move forward. The donor syndrome, dependence syndrome, should be reduced, and then work as a team, but also encourage our communities to really appreciate and understand that the resources they need to change, the change they need to make within the community, they are actually available. It's just them cultivating on them, leveraging them, and be able to use them. Thank you so much. We want to thank you, to begin with, to thank the organizers of this conference for thinking forward and bringing out such a forums, gathering that help us to share our ideas, our experiences, and looking forward. And also to you, Anne, and the Broadwater as a whole, as an organization. Broadwater, I've always said, is a unique organization that looks at transforming organizations for long-term sustainability than focusing on small project objectives. Thank you so much, and to my colleagues for joining, and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Geoffrey.
Thank you.
Effie?
Thank you. I want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. You know, as the last word at my end, I want to say that when community-driven organizations are given money with the organizations or partners that really want to empower them, literally the money will end up driving community-driven driven projects, which will be successful and sustainable. So thank you, Bloodwater, for the great work you're doing, and even for allowing us to be in this presentation today. Thank you.
Husband.
My closing word is, as we all work with our communities, let's always believe that communities have the capacity to unpack their own problems. They have the means to decide to make decisions on their own, and they have the capacity to implement their own actions. Thank you so much, Anne, for having me here. To my colleague, Geoffrey and Effie, it was a wonderful engagement. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you all. To the audience, what I would say is let's carry this one truth with us, is that community capital is not just an alternative to development, it is the infrastructure that we need. So when we invest in it, when we honor local expertise, and also when we resource organizations to lead, we build not just projects, but truly resilient futures. To our partners here today, and the lovely leaders that they work with, Effie, Husband, and Geoffrey, and also to all the other wonderful organizations that are listening in and bravely taking back the power, thank you for modeling what is possible. And to all of us who are listening, who all get the honor to walk along such brave leaders, is may we continue to work with these communities as not just beneficiaries, but the drivers of their own change. So thank you all so much for joining us, and have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you so much.